Sweet promises given to all who believe.
Welcome to Bible Talk class. Today we have a presentation on Jesus. It's entitled, Was Jesus the Only Child of Mary? I believe you are going to enjoy this presentation. But before you do, kindly subscribe. This is how you subscribe. First, sign into your Google account, and then you subscribe to this channel by pressing the red button, and share this video with your friends, your family, your church, and the world. Kindly like this video. The more you like the video and many others that we have prepared for you and the world, the more the world will know that we are here. The more likes we get, the more people see that indeed Bible Talk class is here for good. Now let's begin to look at this issue. It is important to understand this topic because some have raised all sort of questions about Jesus and his family. Now, John chapter 7 verse 5 reads, "For even his brothers did not believe in him." His brothers. The question is that, did Jesus have brothers, blood-related brothers? The people of Nazareth ask, "Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, and his sisters? Are they not all with us?" Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, New King James Version. So these are the passages that we want to preface our study with. From the 2nd century AD till date, the questions still linger, and the questions here are, was Jesus the only child of Mary? Did Joseph have other children before marrying Mary? Where were the siblings of Jesus when Jesus and the parents went to the temple at the age of 12 and during his crucifixion? Luke chapter 2 verses 41 to 51. Why should Jesus ask John to take Mary, his mother, as his own and Mary as her son? John chapter 19 verses 25 to 27. Now, few responses has been provided to address these concerns. So far, in our attempt to maintain the perpetual virginity of Mary, some have suggested that Jesus was the only child of Mary, and that she never had any sexual encounter with Joseph, her husband, after giving birth to Jesus. Others have taught that any reference to anyone as a brother or sister of Jesus means a cousin or other near relative or children of Joseph from a previous marriage. Some have even postulated that the brothers and sisters of Jesus were the children of Mary's sister called Mary in Mark chapter 15 verse 40. The question, again, in summary, is what does the Bible say about Jesus' earthly family? Let's begin by looking at a description of family relations in the Bible. The word brother can be used for blood-related persons. When you look at Genesis chapter 42 verse 4 in particular, we see Joseph and Benjamin being described as blood-related brothers because they came from the same father and mother. The word can be used in reference to relatives, and here we see Jacob describing how his family relates to the family of Rahel's family. And also the word can be used in reference to neighbors. Matthew chapter 5 verse 22 to 23, Jesus describing how one should relate to one's neighbor, and the word used is brother. And the word can also be used in reference to step brothers. Mark chapter 16 verses 17 to 18, we see Herod marrying Philip's wife, and Philip was Herod's step brother. The text says Herod married his brother's wife, and the context indicates that Philip was his step brother. Let's look at some specific more usages. Jacob's sons are identified as Joseph's brothers, though they belong to different mothers, and this point is important. We'll come back to it again. Abraham called his nephew Lot brother. Tamar is described as the sister of Amnon and Absalom, who had different mothers. Matthew chapter 13 verses 55 and Mark chapter 6 verse 3 name James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon as the brothers of Jesus. In Mark chapter 15 verse 40, there is a different Mary, the mother of James the younger and Joseph, who has been identified with the sister of Mary, the mother of Jesus. So this Mary had children. They were called James the young and Joseph. Unnamed sisters of Jesus are also mentioned in Matthew chapter 13 verses 56 and Mark chapter 6 verse 3. So Jesus had sisters according to these passages. Jesus called two brothers, Simon Peter and Andrew, according to these references. So Simon Peter and Andrew were brothers when Jesus called them. Jesus called another two brothers called James and John, the sons of Zebedee. James and John were brothers, and they are further qualified as the sons of Zebedee, meaning that they had one father. And in fact, Simon Peter and Andrew were called when they were fishing with their father, according to the Bible. James, the brother of Jesus, was a prominent leader of the New Testament church in Jerusalem. This relationship afforded him, James, the right to write to believers abroad because he was the brother of Jesus and a prominent leader of the New Testament church. Jude identified with his brother James, a prominent leader of the New Testament, writing the letter of Jude. When we read Jude verse 1, because Jude was not all that known, he identified with his brother James, and James was very well known in the first century, and James was identified as the brother of Jesus, meaning Jude was also a brother of Jesus according to the New Testament. Mark is identified as a cousin of Barnabas, Colossians chapter 4 verse 10, and this tells us that not all relationships in the New Testament were described as mere brothers and sisters, and that if a cousin relationship existed between two people, the New Testament authors could describe it so. For example, Paul's sister's son alerted Paul of a conspiracy to harm him. Acts chapter 23 verse 16. The text does not say that Paul's brother. The text specifically says Paul's sister's son. That was the relationship. In short, a nephew. And so the context is important, and I appreciate that the New Testament authors had variety of words to describe family relationships. Now our take. How do we respond to the questions that we raised earlier on? Let's begin. Was Jesus the only child of Mary? Matthew chapter 1 verses 24 to 25 read, Then Joseph, being aroused from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took to him his wife, and did not know her till she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus. New King James Version. Underline the words, did not know her till she had brought forth her firstborn son. In the Bible, the word know, what is used between man and woman, it simply refers to sexual intercourse, sexual encounter. So Joseph refrained from having sex with Mary when she was pregnant with baby Jesus. Now, after she brought forth her firstborn son, Jesus, Joseph knew her, in other words, had sex with her. That is the word till. Here undercuts the perpetual virginity conspiracy theory. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Luke chapter 2 verse 7, New King James Version reads and continues this description that we have presented from Matthew chapter 1. And so the idea of Jesus being the firstborn son suggests that Joseph and Mary had other children after Mary brought forth Jesus to this world. Let's appreciate this incident. When Jesus was in Galilee, he was invited to attend a wedding. And after he attended the wedding, he moved from Cana of Galilee with his mother, brothers, and his disciples to Capernaum. Look at the string of relationship here. His mother, his brothers, and his disciples. So the brothers are not his disciples, they are his brothers. And his mother was not a disciple, she was his mother. And that is the line we want to underline here. Now his mother and brothers wanted to speak with him on several occasions. When you read Matthew chapter 12, Mark chapter 3, Luke chapter 8, we get this information from there. Jesus identified as a Carpenter's son, whose mother is Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, and brother of sisters. This is what we find in Matthew chapter 13, verses 55 to 56, Mark chapter 6, verses 1 to 6. The description we have here suggests a nucleus family, very tight family. There was a tension between Jesus and his brothers because they had a sense of entitlement as brothers, as the mother in requesting him to provide the wine. The mother requested Jesus to provide wine in John chapter 2 verses 3 to 5. The brothers also requested Jesus to go to Jerusalem and reveal himself publicly to people to acknowledge him and to see him in John chapter 7 verses 3 to 8. In all cases, Jesus responded to them by telling them that they did not understand his mission. He told his mother and he told his brothers. But what we want to underline here is that both the mother and the brothers felt that they had some authority over him and that they could tell him to do what they wanted. This sense of entitlement suggests that the mother and the brothers and Jesus belong to a close-knit nucleus family relationship. Paul describes the brother of James as one of the people Jesus appeared unto after resurrection. The brothers of Jesus and his mother joined the disciples at the Pentecost, Acts chapter 1, verse 14. Always you see this description, the mother and the brothers. In a word, in summary, Joseph and Mary may have had a sexual encounter after delivering baby Jesus, their firstborn, which may have resulted in giving birth to Jesus' brothers and sisters. That is what we can glean from Matthew chapter 1, verses 24 to 25, that Joseph refrained from having sexual intercourse with Mary when he was pregnant with Jesus, and that after giving birth to Jesus, Joseph had that sexual intercourse with Mary, and the result is what we see in the New Testament, that Mary had other children apart from Jesus. Did Joseph have other children before marrying Mary? Joseph is identified as the husband of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Joseph is the father of Jesus, according to the New Testament. Now the shepherd who came to see baby Jesus found Mary, Joseph, and the baby lying in a manger. In that room, what they saw consisted of three human beings: Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus lying in a manger. Luke chapter 2 verse 16. So the people they saw in the room were only three. That is what we find. Interestingly, the brothers and sisters of Jesus are never identified as sons or daughters of either Joseph or Mary, but always his brothers and sisters signify a close-knit nucleus family relationship. These brothers and sisters were very close to their brother. So they are always described as his brothers, his sisters. The children are described as relating to Jesus more than the father and the mother. The close relationship is very important because they have a role to play in the New Testament. They are pictured as young adults who did not understand their brother. Their brother. That's the whole point. So the relationship even between Joseph and Mary is not well established, so that one can say that, oh, these children belong to Joseph. The relationship exists between Jesus and the brothers because the New Testament authors wanted the audience to appreciate that even the brothers who were very close to him did not understand his ministry. That is the picture that we need to appreciate from the text. Biblical narrative spells out specific maternal relations of blood-related siblings of key biblical personalities in a polygamous household. In the case of Abraham, Jacob, Gilead, and David, biblical authors consistently tell the maternal relations of blood-related siblings of key biblical personalities, always in the Old Testament. And so we see that Joseph and Benjamin had a mother, one mother, and Reuben also had his mother. Judah also had his mother. So the authors are very specific in describing maternal relations of blood-related siblings consistently. The same with David. You see, he had several children, and the text will tell you that Solomon had his mother, Absalom had his mother, and the mother's names are mentioned in some cases. But the rule is that when children who belong to polygamous household are described, they are described in terms of their maternal relations, and this is very clear in biblical narrative. The same should have been done with Joseph's case in the New Testament. We see that Jesus had brothers, and the authors do not tell that these brothers had a different mother and that Joseph had married and brought these children into this new relationship with Mary. That is not a picture that you see. And these children are already old, young adults who are able to question, challenge, and show disbelief in Jesus' ministry. And so the fact that we don't have this description suggests that indeed these brothers and sisters were real brothers and sisters of Jesus. That is the picture we see, because the authors knew how biblical narrative describes maternal relations of blood-related siblings, and did not do that, suggesting that indeed Jesus and his brothers were real brothers. That is the point, and that's why even the authors did not even say that, oh, sons of Joseph or sons of Mary, rather brothers of Jesus, to show you how close they were. That's the point you want to underline. Being key personalities in Jesus' ministerial life, these brothers, they appeared several times in Jesus' ministry, questioning him, showing some disbelief, and always with the mother and wanting to speak to him, demanding to speak to him, telling him what to do. Their mother's name would have been mentioned if different from Mary. That's the point we are saying. In short, Joseph did not bring any other children into his relationship with Mary, and that these brothers and sisters were Joseph's and Mary's children. We come to the next question. Was Mary, who was the mother of James the Young and Joseph, the mother of Jesus' brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, according to Matthew chapter 27, verse 56. Now, there's this Mary who also appears in the Gospels. He gave birth to Joseph the Young and Joseph. And some have said that actually she was the mother of the people that are identified as Jesus' brothers and sisters. So let's respond to the question. Mary, the mother of James the Young and Joseph, with Mary Magdalene and Salome, followed Jesus and served him. So this Mary is what we are talking about here. This same Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, was with Mary Magdalene at the tomb of Jesus and among the first women witnessing the resurrection of Jesus. Even if this Mary is identified as a sister of Jesus' mother in John chapter 19 verse 25 as a wife of Clopas, Jesus' brothers are more than her children in number. Some have identified this Mary, who gave birth to James the Young and Joseph, as the sister of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, some have also identified this Mary as a wife of Clopas. We understand. However, if you look at the number of Jesus' brothers, we are looking at 4: James, Simeon, Judas, and Joseph. But this Mary had only 2 sons, James the Young and Joseph. And that is very clear that indeed this Mary is not the mother of the brothers and sisters of Jesus. Note that the New Testament authors pay particular attention to family associations to distinguish between individuals bearing the same name, as in sons of Mary Magdalene, Judas Iscariot, and it's very clear. And so we see James the Young is different from James, only James, and that's why we are saying that this Mary is not the mother of the brothers of Jesus. Where were the siblings of Jesus when Jesus and the parents went to the temple at the age of 12 and during his crucifixion? Answer: the story focuses on the ministry of Jesus, not a biography of Jesus. John chapter 2 verse 4, chapter 6 verse 38. There is a silent period between a newborn baby and a 12-year-old boy Jesus. Many things could have happened, but we don't have any idea because we are not told. The purpose of Luke chapter 2 verses 41 to 51 was to portray Jesus' awareness of his mission while his parents did not understand him. When you look at the text says that Jesus and his parents traveled to Jerusalem every year to celebrate the Passover. The text does not give us details as to how they traveled and whom they traveled with every year, or what they were doing when they traveled to Jerusalem. What it simply focuses on is the fact that at the age of 12, when Jesus and the parents traveled to Jerusalem, Jesus engaged the leaders of the people of Israel, and he demonstrated his full knowledge of God's word. And when he could not be found by his parents, the parents tried to trace him, and when they found him, they were worried that Jesus was not with them. And Jesus told them that they did not really understand his mission. And the text presents the parents as not understanding Jesus' mission, and that Jesus was aware of his mission at the age of 12. That was the point. The point was not to describe detailed account of those who accompanied Jesus and those who not accompanied Jesus coming to Jerusalem. So if you don't find his brothers and sisters joining this journey, it should not be a news, because the focus is not to describe the family relations here, rather to focus on his self-awareness of his mission and the parents' lack of understanding of his mission. That is the purpose that we have to look at. So the author did not set out to talk about the family. That's why we don't find any news about his brothers and sisters in the text. Details of the journey from his hometown to Jerusalem for the yearly Passover feast were not the author's concern, as were with the journey for taxation in Luke chapter 2 verses 1 to 7. As we have already made it clear in Luke chapter 2 verses 41 to 51, that the details of the journey for the yearly visit to Jerusalem from Galilee was not all that the concern of the author. The concern, as we have mentioned, was Jesus' awareness of his mission and the lack of understanding of the parents. That was a concern that we find in this passage. But when you look at Luke chapter 2, verse 1 to 7, when Joseph had to come to Bethlehem or Jerusalem to be counted for the purpose of taxation, he traveled with Mary while Jesus was in the belly of Mary. That is the detail you find. You can actually see the details with respect to the persons that are involved in the traveling in Luke chapter 2, verse 1 to 7. No additional characters or people are mentioned as accompanying Joseph and Mary to Jerusalem. We don't have this information in Luke chapter 1, verses 1 to 7. And if Joseph brought other children from previous marriage, we should have seen him journeying with them from Galilee to Jerusalem, as he was moving from Galilee to Jerusalem with Mary, with Jesus in the belly. We don't have this information. And this passage gives detailed account of this movement, and we should have seen that, and we don't have that. That suggests that Jesus did not have step-brothers or step-sisters. Before Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, the brothers did not seem to understand his mission. Jesus' father and mother did not understand his mission as a child, and the disciples did too. The New Testament authors present a picture of not understanding. Who? The brothers. Who? The parents. Who? The disciples. They did not understand him before his crucifixion and resurrection. That is what we see. And here, the authors have to present to you young adults who did not understand Jesus. When he was a child, the parents did not understand. When he was a child, the authors could not have presented that even his brothers who were young at the age of 2 or 3 did not understand him. That would not make sense. What would make sense would be that his parents, who were old enough to understand, did not understand his ministry and mission. And when his brothers, who were young adults, even saw what he did, they could not even understand. They did not understand him. And disciples, who were also old enough to understand, did not understand him. That is the picture we find about his ministry. That even his family, his blood-related siblings, did not understand him. His own parents did not understand him. And his own students did not understand him. That is a picture we need to find about the relation that existed between Jesus and his family relative to his ministry. Last question. Why should Jesus ask John to take Mary, his mother, as his own and Mary as her son? John chapter 19, verses 25 to 27. The answer is that at Jesus' crucifixion, the faithful formed a new family as Jesus redefined his family as a community of common shared faith. Jesus said that my mother is the one who listens to me and obeys my word. My brother, my sister is the one who listens to me and obeys my word. So, Jesus formed a new family, a new community that shared faith in him and his word. And therefore, what we see is that John stood by Jesus, and because of that, Jesus could entrust his mother into John's care, and John became a leader of the newfound faith. When you read Acts chapter 1 verse 14, Galatians chapter 2 verse 9, that John was a leader of the newfound faith. And therefore, Jesus could ask John to take care of his mother, because when Jesus was on the cross, only John was there as a disciple, as a man. Of course, the rest were women, and his mother was there as a believer too. And therefore, Jesus could say, take care of my mother for me, because I have formed a new family. And that is the point that we need to stress. Some thought we conclude, knowing after the fact that Joseph was not the biological father of Jesus, but was of his brothers and sisters with a different mother or mothers, the gospel authors would have said so, as we see in the Old Testament, that people who shared different mothers but shared one father their mothers' names were mentioned, or it was written that they had different mothers. The gospel authors would have said so. They did not. And that suggests that these brothers of Jesus and sisters shared the same mother with Jesus. The four gospels unanimously present the people, the disciples, and even his family as not understanding his mission. After the resurrection, the biological family, particularly the brothers, appreciated the mission. And this is what we find in scripture. The listing of siblings speaks of descending order of birth. Throughout scripture, when blood-related siblings are mentioned, they are mentioned in the order of birth. So, for example, in the New Testament, Simon, Peter, and Andrew, consistently, when you read the Synoptic Gospels, the three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, you see that anytime Simon, Peter, and Andrew's names are mentioned, they are mentioned in this order: Simon, Peter, and Andrew, suggesting that Peter was the firstborn. Now, James and John, sons of Zebedee, consistently you see this listing. James and Joseph, the sons of Mary, the wife of Clopas, also are listed the same way. Now, Jesus, Mary's firstborn, as we read from Matthew chapter 1, verse 24 to 25, was the first child of Mary and Joseph. Then James, Joseph, Simon, Jude, and sisters in between the men all came after them. And so it is possible to say that Jesus was the eldest of Mary's children. The brothers and sisters are not called cousins or relatives like Mark and Barnabas or Paul and his sister's son. If the brothers and sisters were Mary's sister's children, the author would have mentioned, as we find with Paul and his sister's son, the author would have mentioned the relationship because it was common to describe such relationship that way. Jesus' relationship to the brothers and sisters is always defined concerning him, not to Joseph or Mary. They are always called his brothers, sisters, not sons and daughters of Mary. And that shows the close relationship that existed between Jesus and his brothers and his sisters. Jesus' brothers always appear in connection with Mary in the Gospels, except in John chapter 7 verse 3, as if her children, members of her household, and under her direction. So let's go, always moving together with them, with Mary and Jesus' brothers, Mary and Jesus' brothers, Mary and Jesus' brothers. This is the description we find in the New Testament, and that suggests that indeed these brothers were real blood-related siblings from the same mother. I hope you have understood this presentation, and you send us your comments, and we are ready to respond to them. So leave a comment below. Subscribe if you are yet to be a member of Bible Talk Class, and share with the world, your friends, your church, and your family, and like this video. Stay blessed.
Hold fast till I come, the danger is great. Sleep not as do others, be watchful and